Hello, my name is Suzanne Nielsen, and joining me is Tristan Lipke. The Future Directions Committee of Phi Tau Sigma asked us to create a video for a program that it calls Students Becoming Professionals. We're glad that you've chosen to listen to this conversation that Tristan and I are going to have about preparing for and managing your career. You'll hear mention of several topics, things like networking, professional ethics, giving back, and others. Tristan and I hope the content of our conversation will be of value to each of you who's watching this and listening to our discussion. We're going to focus on students entering the food industry upon graduation. For those of you who instead might be thinking about a career in academia, I'll plan to give to the chair of the Phi Tau Sigma Future Directions Committee a reference to a book chapter that I wrote some years ago with recommendations for those of you who want to pursue an academic path. To start, let me introduce myself, and then I'll ask Tristan to do the same. For me, I recently retired from Purdue University after spending almost 40 years as a faculty member. For 10 of those years, I served as department head. Before that time, my research was focused on food protein chemistry, but a good part of my time was really spent over the past 30 years editing a food analysis textbook. As a faculty member and a department head, I was really always passionate about students and student learning and about preparing students for their future. For many years at Purdue, we had a seminar course for food science seniors. It was heavily focused on career preparation and professional development. I saw the same need for graduate students and postdocs. So when I was department head, I created a class that was just for graduate students and postdocs, and we called it Student Professional Development Seminar Series, a rather long name, but it really did describe what we were trying to do. As a PhD student at Purdue, Tristan took that class. And in years that followed, after he was in the food industry, he would come back and speak for that class. It was a great way for him to give back to students and really help students connect with this reality of preparing yourself professionally. Tristan, let's start by you briefly describing your path as a graduate student and how you decided to pursue a career in the food industry versus in government or academia. So I turn it over to you.
No, thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for the introduction and the context and the opportunity to give back and everything you've done in your career for student development. And I'm one of the benefactors, so appreciate the opportunity to give back here. So yeah, like you said, I was earned my PhD at Purdue while you were department head, and have spent about the last 10 years at Cargill. My path to graduate school and through graduate school to making that decision between academia, industry, and government, I'd say really started in undergraduate. So I was an undergrad in chemistry at the University of Colorado at Boulder. And I was really interested in how all the different chemicals and molecules in our food would have an impact on our health. And I started to figure out what sort of field could I do this sort of research in. And I got really excited in the type of work happening in food science and nutraceuticals and functional foods. This is really what brought me to Purdue to study this for my PhD. Once I started my PhD, or actually, I got admitted as a master's student,
Mm.
and then went towards what we call the PhD bypass. I knew I really wanted to go to that full rigor of a PhD. I wanted to open up the door to go to academia because I wasn't sure at that time at the beginning of graduate school. Um, and I really enjoyed becoming, an expert in the field that I was studying in bioavailability and absorption of fat soluble bioactives. Yet at the same time, I just had I continued to have more of a wider interest. I wanted to explore more areas, different areas, both scientific fields, scientific methods, and also get closer to commercialization. So I think academia is excellent, really builds the foundations for what could be. And I wanted to be a step closer towards pushing these things towards commercialization and making them economically viable so they can make an impact. So that's really what led me to make a choice to go to industry instead of academia.
Thanks for that background, Tristan. So to begin our conversation about preparing and managing career, let me ask you to talk briefly about your time in graduate school. What did you do as a graduate student that proved to be most helpful in preparing you for your career?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of it was just the core, right? The core curriculum that was developed and learning all the different functions that make up food science or the different fields, and just getting that core competency, I think was key, and it's an essential. I think the other things that I tried to add on was what else could I do for development? You mentioned the graduate student development course, and I think taking kind of an interest in some intentionality to continue developing those other skills. I think what I've noticed coming through industry is in graduate school, it's a lot of solo research. You do all the sorts of different methods, but in industry, it's a very much of a teamwork skill. So I think building those sort of skills, I got involved in the Food Science Graduate Student Association. So more of leading together and working together with teams was a great opportunity that I take to develop. I think the other really helpful thing I did was to engage with the industry through things like our industrial associates program. And in addition to coming to seminars of different companies, learning about the industry, but also um, developing more relationships with the people who we have connections. Maybe they were also Purdue alumni. Maybe they also had connections with professors or other mentors I had. So you can really get kind of deeper into knowing the industry and their career path and their field. So that's um, some of the steps that I tried to take in grad school.
Is there anything you wish you'd done as a graduate student that would have helped you as you begin your career in the food industry?
Yeah, I would say an even more breadth of classes and skill sets. Grad school and school is just such a great opportunity to spend all your time on learning and development, and you have at your fingertips all of these classes. So I wish I would have done more in taking classes from other departments. I did, or and also within the food science. So I think I did well in nutrition, but I wish I could have done more in maybe the pharmacy department, agronomy, the business school. So I think building an even more breadth through the other departments. I think I wish I would have done more. The second thing I'd say I wish I would have done even more of was just continuing to build more and stronger relationships with other fellow grad students, because these are continues to be your peers and your network going through industry. So I think I would have done even more in that
Yeah.
aspect.
Okay, good. How did you actually get your first job in the food industry? I think students are always interested in.
That's always the number one question I've noticed. So with going to the industrial associates and career fairs, for me, it was kind of a challenging situation because you have a large amount of companies, they're all coming, and then you end up trying to go through a lot of cold calls or cold resumes. I found the most success through actual connections that I'd made either through my network, my professors, through the people that I met at the career fairs. And I actually got an internship through one of those connections at Cargill. Um, Interned for a summer, must have done something right, and I got an offer to come back full time once I graduated.
Hmm, good. I didn't know the answer to that. I didn't know how that happened for you. Um, so by now, you've worked in the food industry for almost 10 years. Walk us through your various roles up till now.
Yeah. So I've definitely followed a bit of what we sometimes call a zigzag path. Um, so I first got hired in as a food material scientist, and that was the position and the role, which was a bit of a already a pivot and in towards the direction where I wanted to go.
Mhm.
As I mentioned, I wanted to expand my skill set beyond what I'd done in graduate school. So picking up some tools that I actually already learned in my internship, like I learned how to do a lot of microscopy, and I started to take on a lot more classical food chemistry, structure function, and building out a lot of different material science tools to study those. I spent actually 7 years through this corporate R&D function, which served all of our businesses, all of our product lines through long term, through very short term. We need help on this by the end of day tomorrow, sort of work. Um, and I picked up different skills, different projects. I covered stuff from nutrition, food chemistries, doing things on color and flavor and texture. And all these came up kind of on a project basis. So again, with the intentionality, I would discuss and say, okay, I'm really interested in this project or this sort of skill set with my team, with my managers, and got to build on some other experiences. So I had a lot of kind of soft changes within that one group over the course of 7 years. Um, my first formal change was then I took a role in business in what we call the business unit. So this might be a new term for students. So in addition to have a corporate function, a central R&D team, we also have business units which are tied to specific product lines. So I got involved there because again, continuing this continuum from graduate school, and then I took an even closer step towards commercializing products and towards the business. And that's because again, I wanted to be tied closer towards what's the strategy, what are our products we have today, what products do we want to make next year, what products do we want to make in 5 years, and really be closer tied to that business process. I was supporting both our human health additives or human health ingredients as well as our feed additives, which
Mhm.
have which had a shared product development team platform of research and development. Through that process, I got pulled to manage several projects that were to develop new aquaculture additives.
Yes.
So, in addition to how we think of human health, nutraceuticals, additives, supplements, the same things in the animal health industry. And I picked up several that were leading on aquaculture health, so for farm cultured fish and shrimp. After picking up several of these projects, an opportunity came that my manager asked to become the portfolio manager for this portfolio. So continuing along the spectrum. So then I became the portfolio manager for aquaculture additives. Another shift in our business structure and another opportunity came to that role basically morphed into being the category manager for all aquaculture health additives, um, which again took me another half a step farther away from doing the R&D myself and more in really driving the or championing the customers' jobs to be done, filling that pipeline based on what are the needs of today, what are going to be the needs of tomorrow, and what are our opportunities to fill those. So really lucky to be part of a great team now where we have the technical expertise, a lot of strategic partnership and tech scouting, as well as our own very strong R&D teams. So have continued along the spectrum here towards the business side of the R&D process.
Mm. So Tristan, what are some of the things you did during your employment at Cargill, especially early on, that were most beneficial to you in helping you progress through your career and prepare you for the various roles you've held by now?
Yeah, I'd say one was trying to just have some intentionality is the
Mhm.
baseline, and then that can drive a few behaviors. So both proactively taking on um, whether they are small learning skills I can do on my own. I proactively sought out some mentorship
Mhm.
and also other opportunities to get involved. I got involved in our business resource groups at Cargill as a way to also develop some leadership, to give back, and to get more involved with stakeholder and strategy development. So that was a great one. I also got involved in Partners in Food Solutions, which is
Mhm.
a nonprofit consortium of businesses to give back and support developing businesses in food technology in Africa. So that was another way I was able to build on and add on some other skills um, um, that opened up the access from what I had in my standard day job. The second thing was I also vocalized the interest. So I said, in addition to what I was taking into my own hands of saying with my managers, this is what I would like to do. This is what I want to do next. This gives me energy. I want to do more of XYZ. The third thing, which is maybe the most important, is I tried to be good at what I was doing, right? So making sure I was really delivering on my core job and being seen as capable and executing on my core responsibilities. Because I think that's always the challenge of you want to say you want to do more, you want to do different, but to really enable that, you have to execute well on what's on your plate to begin with.
Mhm. Right. In looking back, Tristan, is there anything more you'd recommend to students and others who are soon to enter the food industry?
Yeah, I'd say there's lots of opportunities out there to explore. So um, having some intention of what's your passion, what gives you interest, what gives you energy. Um, and I think the one thing that I think kind of clicked with me after being in industry is aligning this with your work life balance, and how does that job enable your lifestyle. You could think I really want to be an expert in product line ABC or technology XYZ, but also considering, are those jobs in a certain part of the country or a certain part of the world? Are those jobs um, very niche? Are they going to be hard to come by? Do they let you live a certain lifestyle where maybe you want to travel more? Maybe you want to settle down and be able to have a family. Maybe you really need to be in this part of the country because that's where you want to stay next to your family. So I think having a larger also consideration of not only your what you want your job and your career to look like, but integrating that into what you want your lifestyle outside of work to look like, and making sure those two mesh together. I think for myself, I was pretty lucky to work out this through Cargill, where I found a large company that has some good values that align with myself, and that I can do these career development and different role changes. And I haven't had to move for any of these, so I haven't had to pick up and relocate my family. And I think for me, that's been an essential part to mesh these two things together, both the career and lifestyle, and that are both enable each other.
Great. Thank you, Tristan, for having this conversation with me. What a great way for you to give back to students again, rather than just in the classroom.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, Tristan and I both hope that our conversation will encourage those of you listening to be really proactive about your own professional development, both during your time as a student and then during whatever career path you choose. Thanks very much for listening. We hope this has been helpful to you. Take care. Bye.
Thanks much.